There are no end to the wonderful ladies that we've met in this area up here. Kathy, you're from here, and you're one of them.
I am
Pastor
from
Kathy.
this area, and it's an honor to be back with you today.
Appreciate it. Kathy and Mom. But we're going to introduce two ladies. We have two guests, and they're friends, and they work together. And it's interesting because have we ever really talked much about coaching? Our friend Melanie is a life coach, but I don't really think that we spend a lot of time. So this is going to be interesting for me anyway.
Me too.
And I hope it is for you. If not,
me too.
There's really nothing else to watch. Right, Mom? That's what she would say. Just leave it. What were you going to say?
Me too. I feel the same way. I'm anxious to learn more about it.
Okay, well, Kim Gallagher has a ministry called Step Forward. I'm really curious about that. And your friend Amy Glazer is, this is so interesting to me. You were in ministry, left ministry to coach ministers.
Yep.
So it's still a ministry in a way, but it's interesting how you describe it. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So where do you want to start with the Step Forward?
Sure.
Okay.
So Step Forward, the idea behind it is that we all have this sort of boat that we're in, right? And it's that sort of comfort zone that we operate out of on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean that your boat is comfortable. Your boat might not be very comfortable. It might be really uncomfortable, but the boat is familiar, right? Our comfort zone is familiar, whether that's good or, whether it's good circumstances, bad circumstances. So if God is asking us to do something, if we're in tune with Him and He's giving us directions to pursue something or take a step, taking a step forward out of our boat is taking a step toward God. And so that's sort of the premise behind Step Forward, the idea that when you take a step with God. You go deeper with Him in your relationship with Him. And it can be a small step. It doesn't mean like, oh, I heard the voice of God and now I'm selling everything I own and I'm moving to some remote island to, minister to a tribe, It's not a big step like that. It could be, just a small step, like maybe God is asking you to step forward, take a step toward healing, and maybe call a therapist, make an appointment, or take a step toward mending a broken relationship, or maybe it's taking a step toward increasing your education and going back to school, or changing jobs, we make 100, a million steps in our lives all the time. So taking a step forward with Him, if He's asked you to do that step, you're going to go deeper with Him. So
that's amazing. So what's it like to coach ministers, or are there special I want to say special needs, but that's not the right.
Yes, there are.
Unique things that are unique to. Gosh, I wish we had what's that mute button or something that we could just.
How about the erase button?
The erase. That is unique to ministers or compared to other professions.
I think the benefit for me is after being in ministry for so many years and now working with ministers and leaders in the church is that I can understand where they're coming from. So I realize that, it's hard when you're in ministry to have an objective voice, to have somebody who can help you take a step forward that is maybe not inside your circle or not inside the box that you are in a church or a ministry, and have somebody that can really help you see some other opportunities. And that was something I always desired, even though I had mentors, it just wasn't the same. And so one of my good friends who I worked with at a church had left and became a coach and went into coaching. And so when I was looking to make a change, I had become a coach, and he said, why don't you come and work for CoachNet? We have a lot of people that come through here who are in ministry, a lot of people who aren't in ministry, but it's a great way to just continue what God has laid on your heart as your calling. And so I went to work with CoachNet, and that is kind of how it has blossomed over the past couple years. And, I didn't really understand at first how I was going to use this in a unique way. And God has really used it to help others grow in their spiritual walk. He has used it to help people who are struggling in ministry or people who are flourishing but are unaware of what that next step could look like, or just even having somebody to bounce that idea off of. And so that has really been my focus for the past couple years.
How would you define the difference between counseling and coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's unique about coaching is coaching always focuses forward. counseling, very much you have to go backwards to move forward.
Oh, that's
and
good.
so when you get a coach is going to look at, okay, where are you at now and where do you want to go? And that's where you're going to be working towards.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, can you coach without counseling in some cases, or is the counseling required?
Yeah, and that's one of the things about a coach is you have to know when to refer somebody to a counselor. So, you know, we're only all trained so much, and we want to make sure that people are getting the help that they need. And so there have been times where I've had to refer a coachee to a counselor because they needed to work through that before they could take their next steps in coaching. So
That's interesting. That's
Yeah, because I picture it as if it were me and I had baggage and you're trying to pull me forward, it's hard to do it when I have that. So
Right.
you send me to somebody who can help me cut that loose.
Right.
Then, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I can't take any steps forward. I got to hold this baggage with
Right,
all
right.
these ashes.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. So what was happening in your life when you decided to start the step forward, or take us back to the beginning?
Yeah, so it's interesting because back in 2011, I don't even know what prompted this. It was like a Sunday afternoon, and I was probably thinking about something that had to do with the sermon that day. Something prompted me. Let's go with the Holy Spirit prompted me to sit down, and I was thinking through, okay, if you're getting from point A to point B, what does that look like, you know, to make a step out or to take a risk? You know, what's kind of involved with that? And so I sat down and just started writing some notes. And I didn't even know why I was writing this. And by the time I was done, this ended up being the third step. There's 4 steps in the step forward process. And this ended up being the third step, which is to start walking and living your mission. And what does that look like? And then when I wrote it, I thought, well, I didn't write this really. God wrote it. Like He writes everything that I write, you know, whatever it is, if it's a song or a poem or an article or whatever, you know. And I thought, I don't know what this is about, but there's something here. You know, I had the sense that there was something here, that it was supposed to turn into something. But at the time, I didn't even know what it was. And in the beginning, I thought, well, maybe this is going to be more of an encouragement ministry, or maybe people will just like meet up and share stories about what God's done in their lives and that kind of thing. And then, you know, I kind of sat there a while, and, you know, by 2016, I started putting a website together. I had more content. I had brought my friend Al Deschanel on. He's a pastor at Beckwith in Canada, and so shout out to Al. He was phenomenal, and because I felt at the time I really needed a pastor to review what I was writing. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I didn't have an advanced degree, and I wanted to make sure I was, you know, writing stuff that was true to the Word. And so he came on board, and he was reviewing things for me, and we kind of put the website together. And you know, life has always kind of happened. You know, we make a step forward, whatever it is, and then, you know, things just happen. Life just comes up. So there were a large amounts of time where the ministry just kind of sat there, and I really didn't know, like, how is this going to move forward? Like, where does God want to take this, you know? So it's been really interesting. Fast forward to now, over the last year, I really feel like God's given me more of a defined vision and for it, which has been wonderful. And I think that He's given me a broader vision than what I had originally, so it's been cool.
You've spoken about step 3. What is step 1?
Okay, so the first step is to stand up in your boat and recognize that God is speaking to you, right? Because He's speaking to all of us all the time, but we're not always aware, you know, and we're not always listening. And so standing up, recognizing that God's speaking, and that might be a really good opportunity to dig deeper into our relationship with God, because, you know, one of the hallmarks there is just to spend time with Him. You know, get into the Bible, read His Word, read His promises over you, understand how He, you know, understand how much He loves you, has forgiven you, what He wants for you, for your life, you know. And then, so that's the first step, is to recognize that. And you could incorporate spiritual disciplines into that too. You know, maybe you might want to incorporate some quiet time with God, you know, thinking, well, how do I hear the voice of God? How do I spend time with Him? Well, reading the Word is one way. You might want to journal. You might want to just go out and do your favorite activity, like maybe a walk in the woods or a walk on the beach, whatever that looks like, and just spend time with Him, get to know Him, right? So stand up and recognize His voice. That's the first step. And then step 2 is to step out. By that time, you've recognized that God is asking you to do something, either pursue your gifting or, you know, take a step toward healing or whatever it might be. And so step 2, you're stepping out of your boat and you're just sticking your toe in the water, just kind of exploring at that point. And I think prayer is really the hallmark, because when you think God's speaking to you, we should pray, right? And if you think you know what he wants you to do, pray harder. You know, prayer is just, you know, and it's just a conversation, just a little conversation with God, you know.
Well, I know we had a little conversation about this earlier. I'll just use me as an example. You know, sometimes I'm like, why can't I hear from God? And it's like, because you have a million other thoughts, but you can't shut them down.
Yeah.
And you said sometimes you need somebody else to come and give you. There's times like that, but definitely the quiet time so you can hear for yourself is the goal.
Right.
And I wanted to ask us something about healing. If someone is needing a healing, because we get so many calls, people are hurting, and they need healing. They need all kinds of things in their lives, but it's, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Mm-hmm. So when you're saying step out of the boat for your healing, what would that look like to you in your mind?
I mean, I think it could be, you know, talking to your pastor. It could be, you know, maybe it's seeing a doctor. Maybe it's seeing a therapist. It could be a supernatural healing, of course. But I'm thinking of it in more practical terms, and you know, maybe somebody needs to make an appointment. You know, I mean, because like you were pointing out before about how we all have baggage. I mean, my goodness, you know, life is full of baggage. We've all experienced hurts, disappointments, sometimes trauma, and those things need to be worked through. I think it's easy, especially as women, we tend to just keep moving forward, you know, because there are just things in our lives that need to get done, you know, maybe we have families and we're constantly running. And so our baggage, I think we tend to be really good at sweeping it under the rug and just not dealing with it, because we just, okay, that thing happened, I'm strong, I'm moving ahead, I'm not going to worry about that, I'm moving ahead, and you just keep stuffing it, and you just keep on moving forward, and eventually, you know, if you stuffed it in a box on the shelf, eventually the shelf's gonna, you know, the box is gonna fall off,
right.
Or the, you know, the last straw is gonna break, and you're gonna find yourself at a point where you just need to get some help processing through all of that.
Mm-hmm. So what can you do with the person like that? You have to send that person to the counselor?
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
And we're not through the steps, but that's why one of the questions I have for Amy is, how do you connect with each other and work together?
Yeah, so we kind of just randomly kind of connected up and, you know, started talking about the different things that we were doing within our ministries. And being that I do a lot of spiritual growth coaching, it's just natural that these steps that people are talking about fall into the coaching framework. And so being able to really help women understand that no matter what the church is saying, you can get out there and you can get the help that you need. Sometimes we, like Kim was talking about, we sweep things under the rug because we're ashamed, or we think, I'm not trusting in the Lord enough, or I'm not, you know, I can't believe that this happened to me. What did I do to make this happen to me? And our goal is to really help people understand that there's help out there. Yeah. You know, we as the church don't get everything right. So, you know, take a step forward, help yourself, get in there, get other people speaking into you, and really allow that healing to take place. And so that's an important piece.
It's living life on purpose.
Absolutely.
It's being able to sit down and say, okay, God, what do you have for me? What is my destiny in life? And God has a plan. Jeremiah 29:11 says,
right.
I have a plan for you, saith the Lord. So it's not just for him to know, it's for us to listen and find out, and then make a plan and live life on purpose. Sometimes we look back and we haven't accomplished what we feel God wanted us to accomplish, because like you said, we get so busy and every day just doing the things we do, rather than being purposeful and sitting down and putting your different options on the table and saying, okay, God, which one here do you have for me?
Yeah.
And where is this going to take me, and how can I impact others in the meantime?
And that's what's cool about coaching, is that how many times do we have something in our head that we've never verbalized to anybody else?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that we think or we've processed through back here, but we've never brought it out and talked about it out loud. And what if God wants to use that to make it a reality and to use it to move forward? And coaching helps to draw that out. So it's kind of tapping into, you know, how God has been speaking into you, the ideas and how He's created you to be creative and in your own way, and to take that and really use it to glorify Him.
And you provide a safe place
Yes.
to do that.
Correct.
Women need a safe place that they can go and just, here's what I'm thinking.
Right.
How do you feel about this?
Yep.
So how do you help the person who is just totally unsure about if this is what I should do?
Is that question for me?
We don't have much time, Kathy.
Well, I think that, you know, there are many times when we're not sure really what God wants us to do. And I think that goes back to spending time with Him, you know, spending time when, you know, and taking a look at your gifting too. I mean, that's always a good place to start. You know, what are my spiritual gifts, or what are my gifts and talents? You know, what has God, you know, given me the ability to do? And I think a lot of people sell themselves short in that area, and we don't really believe that God's maybe called us or equipped us. So I think part of it is uncovering some of that information, you know. What do people say? Oh, wow, you're really good at X, Y, Z. Or there's spiritual gift inventories that you can take too. You know, where do I fall in that? Am I more of a teacher? Am I more artsy, you know, and just different things. So sometimes uncovering that helps.
That's good.
I kind of think about like a little kid, you know, when they first take their first step, they're wobbly, they're unsure of it, you know, and as they continue to take more steps, they become more sure of themselves. And so in coaching, you know, what's one small thing that you could do that moves you in a direction towards where you want to be, even if you've got multiple things up there? Because I feel like once you get into that motion and you get moving in that direction, those things can sometimes become more clear of what you don't want to do or what you do really feel called to do. And so, you know, being stuck in our seats is the problem. We got to get up and we got to get moving in the right direction. And so no matter how tentative we're starting and no matter how small the progress is, as long as progress is happening, that's successful.
I like that. Learning what you don't want to do is many times just as important.
Oh, yes.
Because
If not
you
more.
can scratch, just scratch.
Definitely.
Oh, thought I wanted to do that, but that's not it.
Do you have tests, special kind of testing, like a spiritual gifts test, or what are those?
We use an assessment in coaching called the Harrison Assessment. And the Harrison Assessment is really based on what are the things that you repeatedly do, because when we do things repeatedly, we become really good at them, right? And when we're good at something, we get positive feedback, and then we start that whole cycle over again. Well, same is true for the opposite, right? Once we do something that we're not very good at, and maybe we don't get great feedback, we're not really enjoying it, maybe avoid doing that, and then we never really hone those skills. And what I love about the Harrison is that it's really about your behavior, and we can change our behavior. And so, you know, there are a lot of spiritual assessments, but this one's really leaning towards how God has really wired you to be, you know, and rejoicing in that. It's not a bad thing if you're not wired to be that way. Stay in your lane. You know, God gave you a lane, stay in there and use it to really glorify Him, whether it's, you know, on a stage somewhere or whether it's sitting next to a sick parent. Whatever it is, God has a plan for it. And so really understanding yourself and living into that, having the permission to do that can be so freeing. So
Don't you think that your passion is a great indicator of what you're going to be good at?
absolutely.
Because God puts that in your heart.
Yeah.
That those things that you're passionate about, those are the things that are going to make you feel fulfilled as well. And it'll be the things that you end up being really good at.
Right. And sometimes that doesn't mean that's going to be fulfilled in our employment. And I think that's a big thing. Sometimes we think, you know, if I'm not feeling fulfilled in my employment every day, or that's not exactly being able to live out your, you know, what you feel you're called to do, but that employment may fuel what you're going to do outside of your hours. So, you know, giving yourself some permission and some space to learn and grow it's important.
Yeah. And marketplace ministry is so important. God may give
Absolutely.
you those gifts, not for in the church, but to go out and use them when you are employed somewhere. And
Absolutely.
being able to impact the people that
good.
you're around every day.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, did you have a question?
Oh, you go ahead. I can ask.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so how do you help people to change their behavior?
Good one.
So one of the things about coaching is really learning that, you know, when you grew up in a household, right, you had some accountability. And then we were like, you know, I can't wait to be this adult where I'm out and I don't have to follow anybody's rules and I can drink pop whenever I want and do whatever, come and go as I please. And then we realized, wow, our accountability is really kind of not so great. So one of the things that we use in coaching is learning what your accountability structure can really look like. Because we need to be accountable to more than just ourselves. And so who are those people around? Who's your village? Who can come around you and really help you? And, you know, these are people that are speaking truth into you as well. They're people who are, you know, on the same wavelength as what you're thinking and want to be doing with your life. And so really exploring that accountability structure can be a huge piece to being successful and to continuing to be successful down the road.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
It is good.
We got to get to step 4. So we never got to step 4.
So I'll backtrack one second.
Okay, please.
The third step was start walking, and that was the step that I wrote originally. And at that point, it's like Peter on the water, walking toward Jesus, doing exactly, you know, this is the part where you're living your mission. Whatever it is, that step that you're supposed to accomplish, that's step 4. And then step 5, or I'm sorry, that was step 3. Step 4 is storm, because what's going to happen? You're just living life. You're doing what you feel God has asked you to do, and then crisis happens. That's just inevitable. So step 4 is all about navigating through crisis, and I think that sometimes, you know, we tend to want to lash out in a crisis or take action immediately, and like the best thing that we can do is just to retreat and seek God. That's like the big hallmark under step 4. Just take a step back, because if we can do that and we can get quiet with God and really just seek Him during that time, that's going to propel us forward in a much better way than if we had just tried to do it all on our own. And then at step 4, the whole thing starts all over again, because you get through that storm and you hear from God and you kind of, you know, see what He wants to do next. Is He moving you to a different step? He wants you to step out and do something different, or maybe your mission, whatever it is continuing. And then you go right back to the beginning, step 1. Stand up, okay, I'm ready, I heard the voice of God, and now I'm going to step out and I'm going to keep walking, and then the next storm's going to come. So it's sort of like a life cycle.
Can you get stuck in one of them so you don't have to go through the storm?
That's why you get a coach.
There you go, right, coach. All right. I'm just kind of curious about your personal lives. You have kids, married, any of that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Married almost 18 years, 2 children, 2 girls, Maeve and McKenna. Hello, Maeve and McKenna. They are 11 and 9, so they keep me
wow.
busy.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Married will be 15 years this month to my husband, Jonathan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a websites?
Yes.
Okay. What are those?
So my website is goldenslothcoaching.com.
What?
Because, you know, sloths are slow, and sometimes slow is good because you really learn about yourself along the way. And coaching is all about the journey. Coaching's about the journey that's going to lead you to the next step where God has really called you to be. And so sometimes we have to go backwards and really stop and really evaluate where we're at, and then say, okay, I'm going to take some time, I'm going to work on this, and we're going to get there. So
This is so funny because yesterday my daughter-in-law was talking about her daughter and how she, in the mornings, is like a sloth. And she says, and it's, but you don't hear people talk about the sloth very often. So it's like,
I love
gonna have
sloths.
to go look it up and find out more about sloths after. They can trying to get a message, right?
There's even a sloth on her car. It's true.
That is
A
awesome.
window
Gotta have some fun.
decal. It's fabulous.
That is so funny. Okay. What about your website?
Stepforwardtoday.com.
Okay. Now, have you written a book?
Not yet.
But you said you wrote other things. What do you write?
Oh, I've written articles for the church newsletter. I blog, so you can go to KimberlyGallagher.com or StepForwardToday.com, and there's articles on there, and Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a book in the plan.
Okay. Well, and I know that you've had successes. Have you had failures? Were there people that just couldn't get there? Or sloths? Or they just stopped at the road and went away?
Well, you know, when you are in a coaching relationship, you have to be willing to take the next step. And there are times where people may realize what they need to do next, but they're not ready to do it. And sometimes you got to hit the pause button. I don't look at it as a failure, just hitting the pause button, because it might not be the right timing, but, you know, God's still at work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you would feel good when you see people grow, and I just wonder how many people that it's like, oh, where you don't get the satisfaction. Yeah. So it's just life. That's life. That's everything.
Life, right. And I've been there, so I have to extend that grace.
Okay, and do you have an office people can go to, right?
We have a virtual office at
virtual.
CoachNet, yes.
Okay, so you don't have people come actually sit in a room with...
Some people coach face-to-face, some people coach on the phone, some people coach Skype, Zoom.
Okay, well, you know where to find them. Look them up online. Yeah. All right, thanks for joining with us. We'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day. If you need prayer, 800-232-9855.